Good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Benjamin. I run an innovation lab. Innovation is a tricky thing. If people ask me what it is, I usually admit I don't know. But what I do know is how it doesn't work, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. So I'd like to address some of the most common mistakes that innovation labs do or that large organizations do when they try to set up an innovation lab. But before we get to that, just have a brief look at what an innovation lab is or what it's supposed to be. So let me ask you a thing. Who of you works for an organization that is more than 20 years old? OK. If you do, chances are you're struggling with IT, right? So you all heard about the digital revolution. It's coming. Of course, you've discussed this 1,000 times. But then you sit at your desk, you look at the pile of paperwork, you look at your computer that takes 10 minutes to boot up in the morning, you look at your website, it looks a bit old-fashioned and clumsy. And you can't help but have the feeling that you're not really taking advantage of the digital revolution. At the same time, you see all these startups coming up. They're like fast and agile and creative, and they build great products that look good and that feel good to use, and you start to feel jealous. And you think, why can't we work like that? Or you might even start to feel scared, because you know that startups are disrupting all different industries, and maybe they're coming for you next. So that's where the idea of innovation labs come into play. The idea is to set up a team inside your organization that works and thinks more like a startup, and that kind of reinvents what your organization is trying to do for the digital age. So what would your organization do if it was founded today? That's the task of an innovation lab to find out. Over the last years, many large corporations have set up their own innovation teams. Also, many governments have tried. Many public institutions are experimenting with innovation labs. And usually they rent a co-working space in a cool-looking building like this one. And they put in fancy furniture and put Post-its on the wall for all the great ideas. And then they wait for innovation to happen. Only that a lot of times it doesn't happen. We've seen a few interesting studies in recent years that show that most innovation labs fail to bring actual digital change to their organization. And if you dig a bit deeper and if you talk to people from innovation labs, you'll find out that they all face similar challenges, and those that failed all have made similar mistakes. So I'd like to look at a few of them. OK, let's go. First, big mistake. You set up a lab, but it's not focused on delivery. So what do I mean by that? Delivery is an important thing because most large organizations don't really do it well, especially not when it comes to digital products. So for example, if you work for a government and you want to create an app or a new website, you usually go to a quite complicated process of strategy and planning. You write down proposals, you have a lot of meetings, you write more proposals, more meetings, more paperwork. And then at the very end of the process, you hand all that paperwork to some external supplier together with a stash of money, and this external supplier or agency is building the thing for you. This process is very slow, it's very expensive, and it's very ineffective. And the key task for your own innovation team is to show that building digital products can be done faster and cheaper and more effective if you take control of delivery back into your organization. So how do you do that? You try to do that by, instead of focusing only on strategy and outsourcing delivery, you try to turn delivery into a strategy. This is an advice I took from GDS, from the British Government Digital Service, and I'm happy to hear that Jessica is here from GDS today. They've written a whole book on how to make delivery a strategy, and the bottom line is, instead of starting with a long phase of planning, you start by actually building something. That's your first step, not the last step. And then you build something. It doesn't have to be perfect, just good enough so you can show it around and test it. And then you keep improving it. and keep testing it and keep improving it. And this may sound very counterintuitive to large organizations, not to start with a long process of planning, but start by building. But it works. It works, and it makes a huge difference, because once you have the ability to deliver actual working products inside of your organization, your whole outlook on digital transformation changes, because you're no longer a bystander, you are a participant now. So those labs that are not focused on building actually working products will not deliver digital change to their organization. I've seen many so-called innovation labs that for years did nothing but strategy meetings and design thinking workshops and writing research papers. And this is all good, you should do this. But real innovation only starts once you start to build real working products. If you're not doing that, you're probably not bringing digital change. OK, so now you know what to do. You should start to build working products. And now you want to set up a team who does that. Second big mistake, you hire the wrong people. Very obvious mistake, still happens all the time. It happens often, I think, because large organizations, traditional organizations, have a very narrow idea of who they can hire. So one thing I've seen happening is you set up an innovation lab and you only hire people with a business and marketing background, because your CEO thinks, well, innovation is just another branch of business. Now, of course, business and marketing are super important skills for every organization, but as I just said, in your lab, you want people who can build stuff, not people who can buy and sell stuff. You have enough of these people already. The other mistake that you can do is you think, OK, if the lab is about building digital products, I just hire a bunch of computer scientists, because it's all about programming, right? Sounds right, but actually, building digital products is a whole art form, and it's not only about programming. It's a lot about product design. You need people that make your applications look good and make them easy to understand, easy to use. It also has a lot to do about user research. We already heard great talk about that in the morning. You need UX researchers that ask the right questions so you get the right feedback. And of course, you also need people who are able to translate the ideas from your lab into the larger context of your organization, and vice versa. So you have to fill a lot of different roles, and it's very important to fill these roles with different people. So not only try to find different roles, but also different disciplinary backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, because if you want to build applications that appeal to a lot of people, you better make sure that you include a lot of different perspectives in your production process already. So hire for diversity, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it will make your products better. OK, so you know what to do, and you have built the right team, and they're all super highly motivated, and can't wait to start working, and then they will encounter the one sentence that kills all productivity and motivation in a large organization. It's this one. Doesn't work that way. So the larger your organization is, the more often you probably hear this sentence. Doesn't work that way. This can be incredibly frustrating to your new team, and there are usually two departments in your organization that are especially notorious for this sentence. One is IT, and the other one is accounting. So you could think that your IT department and your innovation lab should be best friends, because they both deal with digital things, you know. This couldn't be further from the truth. Usually, your IT department and your innovation teams will be enemies from day one. This is because while innovation teams try to explore new possibilities with technology, the IT department is in full defensive mode, you know. If people start up their computers in the morning, this is trouble for your IT department. So if people start to experiment with technology, it's even more trouble. So they will really try to stop your team wherever they can by saying it doesn't work that way. Same goes for accounting. Innovation labs do not necessarily spend a lot of money, but what they do, and accounting hates this, they spend a lot of tiny amounts of small amounts of money. You know, $30 here, $50 here to buy a URL, to buy a new font, to buy some server space. And this drives accounting crazy, especially if these are products that they have never heard before. So maybe you want to spend $20 for Amazon Web Services. OK, accounting is like, better write a 20-page proposal why you need this. And there goes your productive day. So there's not really a solution to this problem, because you see, these tensions, they happen, and they're meant to happen, because you hired these people and you set up this lab because you want them to work differently. And once they start to do things differently, they will get into conflict with all the rules and constraints that your organization has set up. It's almost necessary that this happens. You cannot avoid it. The only thing you can do is you can try to learn how to make things work. You should look at this as a learning opportunity as an organization. Every time your innovation team hits a wall, because there are some rules in place, an alarm bell should ring, and you should think, OK, there's a problem here, and it's probably a problem also for other motivated and creative people in my organization. So just try to think about how you can make things work. And this is, of course, a two-way street. Your innovation team will also have to learn how your organization works, and they will have to find some creative workarounds for certain constraints. But in general, both sides will have to learn how to make this work. So look at this as a learning experience. Having an innovation lab in your organization is a constant struggle. It's meant to be a struggle. And the only chance you have is trying to make the struggle into a productive relationship. And this way, you can have a team that can be used as a source of inspiration, of productivity, and of creativity. Well, yeah. So if you want to learn more about my constant struggle, I'm available at the Glass House for a Q&A afterwards. And otherwise, thanks for listening, and enjoy your conference.